Mauritius has been one of my favourite countries to visit for many years, not only for its beautiful hotels, beaches, fine cuisine and friendly faces, but the Mauritians' enthusiasm for horse racing is second to none. Well, we're with a very, very special lady now, Maura van der Westhuizen, and she is like the fairy godmother here in Mauritius because she's got all these horses behind us that she's rescued and taken from the track and given them the most happy retirement they could wish for, along with many dogs, cats, monkeys. It's an absolutely fantastic farm. Maura, the job you're doing is just out of this world.
Thank you.
Now, you've got these horses here that are they're mostly retired off the track. Just tell us how it all started.
So there's one horse here in particular, and his name is The Reason, and it's September Wind. I think about 6 years ago, my husband convinced me to get a share in a racehorse. I was like, no, Caboose, no. So eventually I said, okay. So we got the share in the racehorse, and I went to visit September at the quarantine station. I took one look at him, and I never came from a horsey background. I took one look at him. I was like, I am so in love. And I whispered in his ear, I said, September, one day you're going to be 100% mine, and then one day you're going to retire, and I'll look after you for the rest of your life. And so it took me about a year to buy, not even a year, less than a year to buy 100% of him. Actually, the one day he was racing on the 2nd of September, it was the Maiden Cup day, and he was racing. So Caboose and I went to watch, and Caboose opens the race card. He says, why does it say here, owner Mr. and Mrs. van der Westhuizen? Where are the other people? I'm like, there aren't any. We bought them all. He was like, what? So anyway, yeah. And September won on that day, so it was even more amazing. Anyway, a couple of months after that, September used to battle a bit with his tendon, so I decided to retire him. And that's how it all started. I took him to, so we live up in the north, and there was a little stable there at Montchoisy. So I took September up there to Montchoisy, and that's where I was going to keep him there. And the day I got there, there was another horse who was going to be the end of him, and his name was Captain Cheer. And I just took one look at this horse, and I knew a little bit about Captain. I said, absolutely not. So Captain was officially my first adopted horse, and Captain is still very much here today, in all his fine splendor. So yeah, so I mean, one September, The Reason, now 20 horses later.
So it's just been a snowball effect from there on, and you're sitting here with all these wonderful horses, and you can't resist. You get a phone call, there's another one, and you take it.
I think I was on about number 14 or so, and I get a phone call, or actually WhatsApp. I get a photograph sent to me to say, Moira, do you think you can find a home for this horse? I'm like, oh. So I speak to Kosi, who's my head groom here. I say, Kosi, I need another box. He goes, but madam, we don't have another box. I said, I know, but we're going to build one. So I think at the end of last year, he had to build 5 more boxes. So yeah.
It's such a lovely story because, you know, we're all into our racing and in South Africa and here in Mauritius, and it's wonderful to see that they can have such a lovely life after the racetrack.
So for me, I think one of the biggest things was I want a horse to learn what it's like to be a horse again, and my ultimate was that if you see here today, they're actually integrating in a proper herd, and that is for me the ultimate. When I see that, I get little goosebumps because it was my dream for all of these horses. I don't expect anything from them. They just need to be happy horses, and that's all I expect.
Well, it must be costing you a fortune. You're not funded by anyone, or you don't have any help.
Majority of the funding is by me, so I will be working till I'm 100 years old. I do have, I am fortunate that the company that I work for, Grit, they do sponsor me. But the idea is, at the end of last year, I actually formed an NGO, And so this year, my aim is, well, this year's nearly over, but my aim is to now start looking for funding. Being a proper organization, it is far easier to actually go out there and tell people your story, and then to see how people can help.
Now, there's not many of these the farms around in Mauritius, so you're probably one of the first to get it started. But it's great to hear that there are more and more slowly people are getting farms and horses can retire and have a home.
Yeah. So I think there must be at least 10, 12 stables on the island. And a lot of them are for jumping and stuff like that. But it gives the racehorses their second chance and their second career. So show jumping is definitely on the increase in Mauritius. So a lot more horses will be able to find a place after their retirement.
Well, your horses are particularly lucky because some of them are not actually ridden at all, either. They're just having an absolute life of Riley, roaming around in a herd in a beautiful field.
Yeah, so I have got a couple who definitely aren't ridden anymore, but that's absolutely not a problem because they're here just to lead their lives out. So I've got like Il Sagittor, he doesn't get ridden. He had an injury back from racing, so he doesn't get ridden. But you'll see, I'm sure he's in one of the video clips, and he looks like $1 million. So yeah, I just want them to be happy horses, and they don't have to be ridden.
As I said, you're like the fairy godmother here in Mauritius because you haven't only got the horses, you've got monkeys that you've rescued, and you've got dogs and cats, and that's a wonderful thing to see in Mauritius too, because there's a lot of stray dogs, and you've taken in an awful lot of dogs and looked after them.
So I actually, when I first moved to the island about 10 years ago, I did start off with an organisation called Paws, which concentrates on dogs and cats. And so that was where I started to rescue. And the main thing is for me, the solution is to just sterilise and sterilise and sterilise. And so when I started, well, actually before I even formed the NGO and I had this farm, I did start taking in a lot of dogs, and over the years I've rescued numerous. At home I've got 8, so I needed another place because after 8 in one house is a bit much. So at the farm here now, I actually have also set up a veterinary clinic, and I've got a fantastic vet who's honestly, he's a specialist in spay neuter. So we go about and wherever we can get sponsorship to do free sterilizations in the villages, we go and do sterilizations in the villages just to try and help and to manage this overpopulation of the dogs and cats.
It's great work, and I'm sure after everyone's watched this on television, you're going to be getting a lot more phone calls, so you're going to have to expand the farm.
I would love to get lots of phone calls to be able to expand.
How many more do you think you can take? How many more is a possibility?
So I think it all depends on how much land Terra will let me rent from them. But honestly, keeping horses is a very expensive thing. Not only is it their feed and the bedding, but along with that comes the human element. And so, but for me, what makes my farm even more special is that currently I've employed 13 people. So some people say to me, Moira, you're just looking after the animals. And I say, no, I'm not. I said, there's a huge human element here, and all my guys at the farm, we're like a big happy family. And for me, I've given them an opportunity to work with animals because they all absolutely love animals. It's not necessarily horses; they actually all love all the animals. So I'm very fortunate, and that I'm able to help them to have better lives and to help them with their kids getting through school and whatever. So
I think the public are going to love listening to you because it's always been a little bit of a concern what happens to the racehorses here when they come off the track, and seeing your farm today and these wonderful happy retired horses is absolutely fantastic. Great news.
Thank you so much. Hopefully there'll be lots more little organisations like All Life Matters in the future, and I think there's a lot more awareness going on now, so a lot more of the horses are getting chances to have their second life. This is one of my favourite horses. His name's King Tut. I didn't actually adopt him directly off the racetrack. I used to have my horses at Montchoisy before they built the golf course, and I had 5 horses at that stage. And once they started to build the golf course, I wasn't able to take the horses out as much. But King Tut was there, and they were using him for taking tourists on outrides and stuff like that. But but he was an extremely introvert horse. And every night I used to go in and into his box and like give him grass and it, because he was just like such a little shy horse. And when I knew that I had to leave, I was like, oh, my King Tut, how can I leave him? And so I managed to convince somebody there that he should definitely be coming with me. So I said, so basically I made sure the float took 6 horses and I had 5 horses, so there was a space for King Tut. So I paid somebody a little bit of money to say, here, this was to cover the income that you possibly would have got from having him as a horse for taking the tourists. And so King Tut came with me, and I tell you, since he's been here, his whole personality has changed. Before he was such an introvert, he couldn't interact with other horses or anything, and now he's absolutely one of like the most favorite horses here and just loves people to bits. And yeah, so it's very special for me to actually see how they can how they change, and it's depending on how they're being treated and their circumstances, what's around them.